So I'm about to have a quick dialogue with you guys about something that I found to be very intriguing and quite compelling to say the least, especially after I've done my thorough research and studies. And to be honest, I think you guys will find it quite interesting as well. And it pertains to fear. It pertains to fear. Now, let me just say, it is so ubiquitous for, these motivational speaker guys to encourage people to avoid feeling fear or to avoid fear, so to speak. But watch this. Encouraging people to try to avoid fear is trying to get people to avoid something that is completely unavoidable. Okay? It is inevitable that us as human beings will experience fear. It is inevitable for us as human beings to experience the emotion of fear. Okay? Not only is avoiding fear unavoidable, fear is essential and very important. And in this video, I am going to demystify thoroughly why that is, so each and every last one of you guys have a more broad, way broad understanding of fear and why it's important. And in doing so, I'm going to pull from my personal notes that I took earlier today while I was brainstorming and just coming up with these ideas. Follow me, you guys. We're speaking about fear, okay? Number one, understand that fear is essential in certain aspects, okay? Fear is associated with the amygdala of the brain. The amygdala is the fight or flight response of the brain. And the fight or flight response is essential for human survival. I'm going to say that again, you guys. Fear is associated with the amygdala of the brain. The amygdala is responsible for the fight or flight response of the brain. And the fight or flight response, the amygdala, is essential for human survival. That being said, fear is needed for survival. Fear is essential for survival. Because without fear, us as human beings would not know what circumstances and situations to stay away from that could potentially put us in danger. Drugs, unprotected sex, violence, etc. Right? Fear is essential for surviving. Fear is a surviving mechanism. Okay? Understand, fear cannot be obliterated, you guys. So when you're hearing these people say, oh, get rid of your fears, or don't feel the emotion of fear, that is completely erroneous. You cannot obliterate fear. You cannot eradicate fear. It is inevitable that us as human beings will experience fear, you guys. It is inevitable for us to feel that emotion. Watch this. The only thing that we can do as humans when it comes down to fear, the only thing that we can do is learn how to calm down the fear. Let me say that again. Fear cannot be obliterated, okay? The only thing that we can do when it comes down to fear as human beings is learn and master calming down fear. Watch this, you guys. Us as human beings, follow me. Us as human beings, we tend to not know when to calm down the fear when it is needed for us to thrive and become stronger and to become accomplishing. Let me say that again. Us as human beings tend to not know when to calm down the fear when it is needed for situations that could make us stronger and make us accomplishing. So this is why the saying, whatever doesn't kill you make you stronger, is so relevant. Because going after what you desire does not harm you. Going after your deepest desires, going after what amplifies you, going after what gives you a high degree of fulfillment does not harm you. So if that does not harm you, then guess what? It can only make you stronger. If going after your long goals that you've had since a child, if thriving in whatever aspect of your life is what you desire, this can only make you stronger. And fear has to be calmed down in order for us to thrive, in order for us to capitalize on thriving situations. So watch this again. Fear is essential for surviving. Fear has to be calmed down for thriving. Fear is not a thriving mechanism. Fear is a surviving mechanism. You need fear to survive, but fear has to be calmed down in order to thrive. Because guess what? If we do not know how to calm down fear in situations that could allow us to thrive, we will invariably miss out on so many opportunities that could take us to the next level, you guys. So very important that you guys understand that. Fear is a survival mechanism. Fear is not a thrival mechanism. So in situations that could allow you to thrive, in situations that could take you to the next level, in situations that could amplify you and give you that sense of liberation, you have to calm down and learn how to calm down the fear. Because if you do not, you will miss out on grand opportunities, you guys. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys could attest to that. You've been in situations where you knew something could take you to the next level, but due to the fact that you didn't know how to calm down that fear and you got in panic mode, the opportunity went way above your head and you missed it. You missed the opportunity simply because you did not know how to calm down the fear and be balanced. Right? Follow me, you guys. I'm pretty sure most of you may be asking the question, which probably springs naturally after what I just spoke about. That question may be, well, how do we calm down the fear? Follow me. The only way that we can calm down fear, two ways that you can calm down fear. And the two ways that I highly, highly recommend to be effective. The first way to calm down fear is seeing both sides of the spectrum. The second way to calm down fear is mitigating the risk of what you fear. Mitigating means reducing. The second way to calm down fear is mitigating the risk, reducing the risk of what you fear. How do you reduce the risk of what you fear? By planning ahead with foresight. Again, two ways that you can calm down fear, you guys. Please note this. Please. The first prerequisite for calming down fear is seeing both sides of the spectrum. The second way is mitigating the risk of what you fear by planning ahead. So let me give you guys an example. For you guys that may be in a relationship and you have somebody that you really like, but you fear the relationship ending, right? How do we calm down that fear? Again, looking at both sides of the spectrum. What is both sides of the spectrum? Well, this relationship could be successful or this relationship could be a failure. I fear the relationship failing. The fear is in the relationship failing. Well, how do we calm down that fear? By mitigating the risk of the relationship failing. How do we mitigate the risk of the relationship failing? By developing the willpower to become the person that's willing to give a fair, even exchange with this person. We mitigate the risk in the relationship not ending by reciprocating love, compassion, all of these things that could make the relationship survive. So if we develop these attributes, we no longer have fear of the relationship ending because we mitigate the risk of the relationship ending by telling ourselves, I am going to make sure that I am going to give this person an even fair exchange of love and compassion. So if I develop that, if you develop that in your relationship, you no longer have the fear. The fear is calmed down. Second example, stay with me, you guys. Let's just say if you have an exam or a test to take, right? A very important exam. Again, how do we calm down the fear? By looking at both sides of the spectrum, you guys, and mitigating the risk of what we fear by planning ahead and strategizing. So again, taking an exam, looking at both sides of the spectrum, I could pass the test, right? Or I could fail the test. The fear is in failing the test, right? So if the fear is in failing the test, how do I calm down the fear? By mitigating the risk of me failing. How do I mitigate the risk of me failing? By planning with foresight. How do I plan with foresight? By studying intensely and making sure that I memorize everything that I need to pass the test. Because if I can memorize and if I study intensely, right, the probability of me passing the test is very high. Now, since the probability of the test being passed is very high, the fear is automatically calmed down. I no longer fear failing the test because I mitigated the risk of me failing the test by making sure I made it a priority to study intensely and memorize everything that I need to memorize. Literally, you guys. Let's do another example. Literally. Man, this is amazing, you guys. Really wrap your minds around this concept, you guys. Let's give another example. For you guys that have a job out there, right? And you may fear losing your job. Again, how do we calm down the fear? We're going back to it. How do we calm down the fear? Number one, by looking at both sides of the spectrum. We have to look at both sides of the spectrum, you guys. We cannot have a one-sided expectation that sets us up for even more detriment. We have to look at both sides of the spectrum. How do we look at both sides of the spectrum? With the job. Well, one way of looking at the spectrum is saying the job could give me a promotion and I could be at this job for a very, very long time. The other side of the spectrum is the boss could come and fire me. The fear is in being fired. This is what the fear is at, being fired. How do we calm down that fear? We calm down that fear by mitigating the risk of being fired. How do we mitigate the risk of being fired? By planning ahead with foresight. How do we plan ahead with foresight? By making sure that we're on time, right? We have exquisiteness when it comes down to being punctual. We're carrying out our duties effectively, and we're working with a high sense of conscientiousness. So now that we've developed these attributes, we no longer fear losing our job because we know we're doing everything that we need to do to make sure that the probability of keeping the job is very high. So if we're doing the things that we can say, well, this is what's going to keep me on the job, we no longer have that fear of losing it. We've mitigated the risk of losing the job by making sure that we're on time, doing our duties effectively, etc. So we no longer fear losing the job. What reason will you have to fear losing your job when you know you're doing everything that you're supposed to do? At least you think. Fear automatically calmed. You guys, this is very important. So when these people who are in these positions that are saying, well, get rid of your fear, don't feel fear, avoid fear. Avoiding fear is attempting to avoid something that is unavoidable, you guys. So instead of trying to avoid fear, which will create more detriment feelings, embrace fear and understand that fear is nothing but a feedback symptom, you guys. Fear is only feedback, right? So if you feel the feeling or if you feel the emotion of fear, it's a feedback letting you know that you have not properly strategically planned and mitigated the risk of what you fear. Right? Another example, let's just take two boxers in the ring, you guys. Right? These two guys, they don't fear this fight. They have no fear in their hearts when they're coming up to have this fight. Why? Because they've mitigated the risk of losing the fight by planning endlessly, by doing the things that they know or that they think they have to do to come into this fight and be victorious. Literally, the fear we can never eradicate fear, you guys. We can never obliterate fear. We can only calm down the fear. And the moment that we calm down the fear, we're able to be balanced and see with a clear mind instead of having a distorted perception or distorted feelings, you guys. The only way to calm down the fear is by looking at both sides of the spectrum and mitigating the risk of what you fear. That is the only way, you guys.